Maybe if you look at AI, my name is Mumbai. Like that. So, on my panel today, I am going to welcome Trambakeshwar Vatsa, fondly known as Vatsa. Vatsa is the Chief Technology Officer at CDA e-markets. He is responsible for technology strategy of commodity and derivative markets. Welcome. Next, Jeet Sinha, EVP at Kotak Mahindra Bank, career banker, everything from payments, lending, banking. His claim to fame to be on this panel is the author of a book called Revolutionizing he wrote that book, the section book on the page. But he's already written the book, I think it's done for me. Third, let me call Indrajit Pandit. Indrajit belongs to the Federal Bank team. He leads bank digital innovation and transformation efforts. We welcome. Just to add, gives me more pleasure to welcome Imran on stage because he's going to be match me. So if you go back more than 50 years, he was always the Indian side. So the one last year, not the Ajay Shankar. Rajesh APN. Yeah, AI. His claim to fame as a company was tech platform, and now they have several award-winning for like all and AI.
First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Um, I'll take a techie view here on the AI. So AI, my view, there are two separate segments. One is the AI before the Gen AI. Gen AI the entire discussion of Gen AI started probably 3 years back. But before that also there was an AI. There was a data science that was happening on the AI, on the IT side, and most of the banks are leveraging it. Um, so, or if I have to take an example, the journey of AI years back, where started looking at data, right? The deep oil. And in some other form, the data started becoming the central part of the data. Started with the data warehouse to the data strategy. But the whole idea was there is a lot of information sitting in the data which is valuable to business, which is not being tapped as of now. Now, suddenly what happened in last 3, 4 years is earlier, I think what they mentioned in the first panel, to interact with the system, you need to have the idea of coding. You need to have an idea of likes of Alexa, Siri, or Gemini coming in the hands of a common person. You can interact to a system in your native language. It was limited to English. Now it's going into different languages. Or people realize, oh, there is a powerful powerful system which is there in your hand, which can give answer to anything and everything. And that is where the misconception starts happening. When a business person starts talking about IT, looking at information from a Gen AI kind of a thing. So I believe this is a powerful technology which has come to everybody's hand, but it has to be handled very carefully. It is still probably 5 or 7 years down the line before you can completely rely on Gen AI for the accuracy of the information it is giving. Right now, what we have done, at least in NEML, is in last 1 year, the entire IT development, we have started to take advantage of Gen AI. So starting from, let's say, the idea phase, where a lot of discussion happens, we used to be dependent on Gartner reports or probably reports. Now, probably it is very easy for a person to get those from one of those Gemini or ChatGPT. I mean, in fact, they'll give some kind of very customized, tailored report which could be used to start or kick off any kind of idea. Then from there, let's say going into the BA phase, the business analysis phase. Earlier, it used to take months to get to a right version of a document. Now with Gen AI, if you are sitting in a meeting with a a Teams or any kind of software which could generate or summarize this entire meeting, that software could be used to create the first iteration of a BRT or a RF document. That itself is a big game changer, especially in IT, because it takes the entire effort of documentation completely away from the people. So people actually can concentrate on the agile process of IT, which again gives a lot of value to the business when you are dealing to the end customer. Third is the coder itself. Now he can rely on multiple co-pilots, which right now generate code much better than an experienced 10-year-old coder. Now that is a big game changer itself, which I think most of the fintech companies are already leveraging, and I'm sure banking sector is also getting that benefit. Both is again on the testing side. So I'm talking about how in the entire IT segment this is currently being leveraged. Not something which is far-fetched. We are already leveraging Gen AI as part of our entire IT delivery ecosystem. Then comes once the code is deployed, the code moves into either one of your data center or cloud. Earlier, I mean, there was a lot of questions on cloud being expensive. Now that is where a lot of activities are happening on the AI ops or the ML ops or the FinOps, where looking at the past history of data, a lot of activities are happening how to reduce costs and large extent, I mean, it is actually helping with it. So these are some of the use cases, especially from the perspective in banking. I'm sure financial crime, I mean, these are something which were leveraging AI for almost 20 years. I'm not mistaken with the numbers. So there are defined use cases which are already leveraging, and it will continue to leverage the generative AI power. the last segment probably is, I'm from the commodity exchange. AI, which I think Ram mentioned, is 28% of our entire GDP. Government, at least on the agriculture part, they are coming with a lot of DPIs. AgriStack is one of them, and they have a big AI programs for the next 4 or 5 years. There are policies which have been created by Maharashtra government, by UP government, and the government of center, and they are driving this digital transformation in agri and the AI adoption in much faster pace compared to that. So that probably is another segment might be indirectly beneficially to banks who are looking at credit financing for the MSME market. Thank you. Yeah.
Was on a site. We're able to generate app of sales for that kind of power to
Completely.
so when you take that use case on from a banking perspective, think further into bank, what the use case that you are more about, and I will also want to look at it from the other side, that and what will happen maybe, how do you balance that reality with the integration of cost and the security component. So, starting with use cases and then looking at the type of
Let's start with excitement. I think there is more excitement that we for AI and these banks. Banks and IT companies tend to take a more measured approach. Yeah, and this into that. I think when we look at AI and roll out of AI, yeah, when we look at the components that we buy, the AI implementation plan and some when you look at the plan, for example, technology has it is at the point where we have efficiency is 25% on cost per transaction. And time is tremendously that because we are having the much more when the AI on the market that we have now and the balance about dubbing inside. It's a very important aspect. How do you say not about only monitoring, but it's about bringing all data together, but it's about saying and that is big just to form a sort of a the point is obviously the security aspect. I think Jenny, I think ability to generate but in most cases banks will not be able to conflict being that the same Jenny that can also create the impact. That's why what we want to generative AI and what we want to achieve as the bank. We want to achieve AI. Banking is simple, but customers' needs are complex. When we look at customers that part that generative AI can resolve better reasoning model being able to achieve that outcome. So I think segregate that, keep that aside and say, okay, the reasoning I will resolve to saying what are the feasible and viable customer journeys that will come to address the challenge. Right? So excitement, take it there and then say, now I've got a that I can service and responsibly. Then you add your architecture, API data segregation, and make sure that is done. So I would say that is one element to go of it. Other part is banks are regulated entities. So as much as you have an output being given in the customer statement, and there's one case study in Australia that customer asked them, "This is free?" The AI responded yes. One that case in the consumer court that the AI suggested should be free. So remember when it goes across as AI being used for the front end in banks, so the output is clearly measured. That's where I think the explainable AI comes in. Why have you taken a decision in that particular manner? How did the AI come to that point? What was the data? And I think that's where a lot of effort needs to go into understanding the data interaction, understanding the business process, how to start was actually supposed to be achieved, and then aligning that with the. So I think that's sort of taking away the excitement, but I think eventually when we look at orchestrating this together, we can it's about differentiate them because technology is not only great some nice words of my if something goes wrong, we go right. And I think that's what so is talk between talk about these please. Is that the right way to go about or day when you want to in any line? Yeah. When you want in case to create a because started I want to ask that to you. Use cases to make why is it
1 year before coding is over. Okay, so as soon as you were answering, so audition some part, and then she chooses. So want to also take on that question.
Uh, I'm always on the optimistic side of it. Very optimistic. Why? Because see, as Vacha said that AI is mostly like practical of AI, we have done the machine stage. Now the genetic AI, predictive AI, and big intelligence like that. So there's a one fast big thing. The company not this that my gate raise 100 right? My gate right? The application right? They have right? They're saying okay. Yes, it's still positive. Uh, it will say on the back. It is taking not that below the senior level and you have growth. They can grow the entire and we had equation we see right suddenly sending all the things right back to have the equation
This is coming from is I think coming here is
Productivity. Like, you have to make it productive. Not gonna come and make it. You have to bring with what gratitude is given. And in that,
one question I definitely want to get an answer. So, so I'm next question. The comment and so my my last question is when you spoke about what you speak that word and say AI that way the common question. I let each one of you decide who would like to give good.
question is regarding that if agency has future and yet it is all positive, right? Let me say what happens. The bank has to people, right? For example, bank possible that we can there is a key. You have to run a campaign. There's the key. Generate the data. What are the criteria? What are the same thing? Then it cleans, then it goes to your team, will generate the collateral. Then it goes to cost initial value. Okay, this collateral is right. Then it goes to the team, goes to the campaign. Then it will go to second team, post campaign data is filled. This is the and in this process, 45 days are gone, we Diwali मिल गई सबसे offer देगा. Right? So this is the practical problem. Now, okay, now I give an example of Boeing. Okay, even Adobe has this use and where the agent is waiting. in real time, really will it help you mostly? How to contain the
my mind here two reality. One is in banking, there is always a drive of achieving state-owned processes, and that's something not new. So anything which we develop within IT system or process, any process which we plan, is always look from a perspective whether it will receive SPP or not. Only in exception scenario where some regulatory guidelines are there, we can have a manual test point. Now, SPP is where we want to be for most of our processes. Second, um, second is um, so SPP is actually SPP. I mean, because the reality, if I take a parallel analogy, so that there are a number of payment methods which are popular. But today, I mean, if you see the growth which UPI is having compared to, let's say, credit card, RTGS, IMPS, UPI has a very different standard of growth. Now, what it means is uh, friction as well as take to process will always be a driver. Now, how agentic AI is helping you is I mean, it is helping you to outsource anything which is not so critical to your business. So, as I think Daniel mentioned, once you once you tell to your chatbot what you want, everything on the back end is decided by this agentic AI because they have this cognitive power which earlier was missing in the previous version of robotic process automation, which is the previous journey of agentic AI. So in my mind, it is not a question of why agentic AI, why not agentic AI, and it's just a matter of probably months or years when we start seeing a full-scale rollout of agentic AI apps or services which would be used by customers. Very
AI is now key for the not so great point. I'll go with the fact that in fact technology allowed me to happen in fact that so it's a no-brainer now that since the customers have adopted AI, okay, banks will have to adopt the customers. So it's no point of bank thinking, let us think this is my idea. Not going to work. Banks need to build projects that can service their business efficiently and service the tax because that is when we have built in that little element thing I have. So that I've taken in this. So resolving that with agents going to be key to say that that becomes zero or near SOP. But some and then it's like how you orchestrate these events from the customer that will be there are but we remember that customers always an AI model that is designed by a bank. It's going to be so the customer will want to pay the model. How agent has to be the best of them. That has to be autonomous. Agent is okay. Because you have to say what you have and the customer is not for best but have I packaged it rightly that the customer comes back? Or is it going to be a happens with the apps that have offered a cashback? Use them as long as the cashback if the service quality is good. Yeah, that was always there for for them. So that's going to happen with AI. So to make it consistent, I think what's going to happen is that agent will have to be very efficient. Agent has to be problem. Agent has to be really well from a where or being too general or really that I saw a close all of this panel. Thank you so much.
We go to the last final for this. Thank you. What are we doing? Okay, can I make a little bit? Uh, as I mentioned earlier, we heard what they- and so well, it will be correct, uh, all things that there was on the topic. Uh, in one page of the economic science, there are thousands of companies. And I have to say, in the last 1.5 years of our raising money for a pure fintech VC fund, there aren't that many around. The tech fund, and obviously other funds. We would have thought that the platform we have and how hot quote unquote the sector is, because there's complete alignment between the government and industry on this agenda. And it's obviously a quote unquote a hot topic in the global context. Uh, our experience over many months was that the industry, or shall I say, broadly speaking, the average investor who is liquid or who does not fully understand regulation. Yeah, I think there is still, in spite of where the technology is going, that the orientation is to, for obvious reasons, partly think of it as we. But I think many of the audience in the room today are the B2B variety. We all know that historically, early adapters of technology were banks, and they operate in the most regulated regimes on the planet. So if you play with technology, you have to kind of make sure that it works. And with so much investment in legacy systems, that there is no choice but to bring in other technology. But the broad understanding, even at the government level, to be honest, was that the moment you had a fintech discussion, they would still go to a page and value single entities are all over the place. So there, it was not easy. I mean, I'm glad to say that we have now an up and running fund, and we thought it would be the conversation not so much about how our journey has been over the last year and a half to raise the capital, but how we have put it into play.
Because I would appreciate, and as the example was just given, there are many young entrepreneurial, bright people who obviously have ideas every day. Many of them will work, many of them may not work, and so I think as an investor, you need to be able to, the hit rates on VC tend to be lower sometimes, and we want to try to maximize it. So we thought that rather than just talk about technology today, we talk a little bit about technology, but also investing in it. And so there's Subit, who's the associate partner on the Cedar IBS Fund. So where is Subit? Yeah, Subit can help you.
Good afternoon. So I've also been given the difficult task of keeping all of you away from the lunch for some more time. Uh, and thanks, Sanjay, for introducing the fund. As Sanjay mentioned, I am Subit. I'm the associate partner of the venture capital fund that we have. It's a 22 million fund. We started last year, January 2024. Now we have two portfolio companies. Both the promoters are here and they will be part of the panel as well. And we are now looking forward to meeting the third and the fourth investment. In this fund, we plan to do around 15, 12 to 15 investment, all enterprise tech companies who are solving one or other problem in the BFSI sector. So that's the plan, and let's see where we go. The good thing is that all the panels spoke about how banks are very, very appreciative and recognize that while banks main business is good, building the trust and serving the customer, but the tech is a very, very important partner in enabling them to do it efficiently and at the end of the finding ROI. So that makes the enterprise tech companies and their founders and operators a very important collaboration. So without let me invite my panelists. The first panelist I have the banker Shekhar Lili. Shekhar, please, if you can join us. हाँ जी अच्छा He is HSBC Bank. He looks after the embedded finance. He is also run supply
Just
chain
observe
finance
for
and
some
digital
time, then we'll
onboarding.
again change if required.
What many of you may know or not know that he is also an author and a speaker.
Yes,
Welcome. The second panelist we have with us is the founder and CEO of CopyQuest, our first portfolio company, Satish Gram Projects. He is a veteran in Infosys, has spent 2 decades in Infosys, and when he was there, he was leading global delivery, large transformation program, and his strategy is an initiative for insurance and financial services. And today we will learn more about from Steve what he's doing at CopyQuest. Our last panelist, please put your hand together to invite Rajesh Sayyed, who is the co-founder and CEO of Wonderland Hub. This is our second portfolio company. They have a platform and service offering with two products. One is the automating the distribution incentive payout, and the second one is the image LOS platform. Thank you all for coming. Thanks. So I think in the previous panel, we heard a lot of interesting nuggets as well as wisdom. And I think the common theme was that all of the things that bank has achieved and what they're trying to do wouldn't have been possible without the collaboration of the two parts, which is the banking and the technology. It seems like it has become two parts of the same coin, right? But what we're trying to explore in this panel is that what is going to fuel the next phase of innovation? Because the very interesting part of always strive to look for, you always do it, achieve it, but it's trying to work towards it. The second, first question is for you. Given that the banks are going to play a very important role in this, how do you see that this next phase of the digital innovation being feeling from the bank side before we come to the technologies?
Sure. Okay, so thanks, Subir, and good afternoon, everyone. Basically, see, the overall banking is getting commoditized, right? Okay, see, there are couple of areas where I'll be better than other banks and vice versa. But the customer expectations are really increasing. And I'll give you a few examples, right? So one is when I'm meeting a new customer, okay, now they expect me to know everything before I actually pitch anything. Like an example, for example, Cedar, right? Suppose Cedar is not my customer. I'm going to pitch some banking solution to Cedar. I choose Sanjeev sir for his personal banking. He's obviously very busy. He only gave me 10-15 minutes to pitch banking. Now I can't spend time asking questions. I can't spend time like how many offices you have, how many employees you have, what is your revenue, etc. I need to know everything so that I utilize those 10-15 minutes well to talk about solutions to his problems and how I can be a partner to his growth story. So to utilize those 10-15 minutes well, I need to do a lot of background work. I need to do a lot of data about where Sina is present across the globe, not just in India. So I need to have all this data at the back end. So the concept of KYC is changing, right? Know your customer is not just from the risk perspective, also from the business development perspective. So this is one thing. Second is all the customers expecting to do banking very easily, and that's when embedded finance comes to picture. Want to do banking from their own systems and processes rather than logging to separate banking portals. The third one very interesting is in India we always say all the how, what can I ask you? So say okay, a lot of value-based service are being expected, and give the example. These are real case cities, right? India Pakistan match, Asia Cup final, Mumbai match starts at 2 p.m. A CFO and say, I want the tickets to this match. Or because the final, I want the ticket, the front row ticket, best seats on the stadium. Now, how is it possible? Okay. But these are the expectations of people. Now, this is a ranking moving, right? While the core product services remain the same, but these are the valued services, these are the ways we can meet the customer expectations. Now, how it can be done, right? It can't be done by the bank group. While we have all the data, analytics, AI, we've done a lot of models, insight, etc. That's why we need to collaborate a lot with fintechs so that we come up with the next best action and come up with right experience for the customer. There are a lot of innovations happening, but yeah, it will be achieved via collaboration. But at the same time, we have to be mindful of the privacy concerns. Very increasingly, people are very mindful of the privacy, how data is being used, etc. It's going to be a balance of innovation, customer experience, and trust and privacy.
Thanks, Segar. I think the last 2 points are very critical as we look towards working towards new innovation, new solutions. The privacy part remains the paramount. I think as in to my two other co-panelists, Satish and Raj's common question to both of you, and you can take turns to answer. What gaps that you saw in the BFSI that inspired your solution? What is the opportunity that you saw? And obviously, we're looking to build your platform not for short term but for the long. How do you see those gaps evolving in the next 5 years?
First of all, thanks for having me here. I had the privilege of attending the multiple events in the past, sitting on the other side. I'm good to be here on the stage today. Thank you for that. We are a Cedar IBSI capital investment company, as Sudhir said. I must thank them and acknowledge the complete support that we're getting from them. While they not only make the capital work, they also work with the startups to meet this very appreciated. So I have been in the tech industry for about 29 years. And of that,
First 25, I spent with Infosys, playing multiple roles, working with the banks, the insurance companies globally. I have been kind of working with DXOs in the digital transformation program. In 2018 or 2019, just before the COVID, we had a customer visit, and John from one of the US brokerage company, risk brokerage company, had come. I was having dinner and I was asking him, John, you have done a big digital transformation program. How is life with your business operations team? And he said, look, Satish, it's all good. The work, it's moved from one user, one other. But when the work lands in the operator's desk, they continue to take the same time. And that's not changing. So then I asked him, what's the challenge? Then he was saying, look, we get a lot of documents, we get policy documents from various carriers. They're all in different formats and very difficult to get back. And then the operators read that, enter that into the system, etc., to the underwriting, etc. So then we took it as a challenge, and next 2 years we tried to solve that problem with whatever technology was there, including some homegrown solutions, but it remained a problem that we could not solve. In 2021, after COVID, I had completed 25 years. I took a plunge into the startup world. I met my co-founders who had deep experience in AI and ML. AI was just about becoming prominent at that time. They had worked with Thomson Reuters, Schroders, etc. And I saw that they had excellent technical that we could apply to some of the problems. So John was not alone, right? So every customer that we worked with did a lot of RPA, OCRs, and digital transformation. But the problem of dealing with documentary business operation continues to be there. So that's where we started the Cogniteware with a singular focus on helping enterprises simplify their business operations, which involve adoption of the activities. So just to answer your second question, how would it change? Many times I've been asked, what if documents disappear from the industry? Right? So I believe documents will most likely continue to be less complicated. But as long as governments are there, documents will be there, right? So and given that global trade is going to be a heavily interoperable business, documents will remain as a means of communication between entities, and they see a good opportunity to with what we are building. The second is, I think the previous panel talked about that the agentic AI. I believe autonomous systems, autonomous workflows will definitely come in. And again, agentic AI, it's all about understanding the language, right? It's all about driven by LLMs. And again, there is a challenge of if we can't trust LLMs, it's very risky to trust the agentic AI, which depends on the right. There is a need for bringing in a kind of a guardrail, kind of control on top of it, bringing classical AI and other, and make that more process. So there is a lot of opportunities. So very excited with all the changes that are happening and quite. Yes.
Yes, with I mean, so firstly, I had the advantage of being a banker for 2.5 decades before I say tongue in cheek that I got bored of banking and I wanted to do something more exciting and ended up becoming a tech fin entrepreneur. I deliberately, Sanjeev, you said that, fintech becomes okay, but how many customers would you have would be the default question that would come. So in a sense, I had the advantage of actually looking at the restaurant, having been part of the kitchen. Now, two solutions which Sudhit mentioned, the incentive automation solution and the lending automation solutions were two both domains which were pregnant with possibilities, as I call it. Right? And you give a founder a mic and to speak the whole day in terms of what we wanted to do. I'm conscious of time, but the point being that let me talk about our lending automation. Right? I mean, when we actually built IncrediHub, which I call the lending platform service, we went back to to the industry and spoke to people and what their problems was. Firstly, it was easy. I mean, out of the 25 years that I spent in banking, half of that was spent in building lending businesses, from scratch. So in 2016, 2017, going back to the market, I'm hearing problem statements. It looks eerily similar to what I was studying when I was building business in the 1990s. It looked like, lending technology almost was in pause mode for a very, very long, period of time. So we looked at what are the problems. There are many. And some of the things that, that we looked at was firstly the lending paradigm itself, right? Essentially, when I was a banker, I felt we needed to build a full-scale technology company within the bank in order to actually run the business. Now, the lender's core business is actually lending, right? Should he actually carry the technology burden of actually running a lending business? It's a very pertinent question, right? And therefore, we actually looked at, as well as an upstart, we didn't have the burden of legacy, right? So we didn't get trapped by marketing convention, with market convention. We said, what is the problem that we are trying to solve? We are trying to solve the pain that exists in terms of, originating loan applications, assessing and decisioning them, right? So when Incredible was conceived, it was one of the first that actually was a unique confluence of a loan origination system, a credit business rule engine, and a workflow orchestration engine fit together. And every time I stood up to present to people, they would first ask me, "Are you an LOS?" I would say no. Are you a BR? Yes. Are you a workflow? No. I said, we are all. The second part of this was a disjointed tech ecosystem that was there, right? I mean, it was largely a seller's market at that point in time. People had resigned themselves to the fact that, okay, this is what it is. I need to build, processes around the constraints of technology rather than actually being the other way around. And there you had, opportunities, for instance, to say that when you're actually, appreciating the constraint that actually that they are facing, right? You go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what is that? So each of these providers, so there was an LOS provider, BRE provider, a workflow provider, each of them did well independently, but they dropped three solutions to the lender and he was expected to relieve the friction between them. So when we conceived IncrediHub, we said that how do you actually kind of ensure that we actually get this, as sustainable, right? And get it in a form where we build it in terms empowering the business user, right? I mean, banks, lenders should not get trapped, with their lending ecosystems. So we built it as a no-code solution, right? Which empowered the business users to make all those changes. Hence, it didn't get trapped in what I call as a tyranny of change requests that you normally kind of think out. The third point was half solutions, I call it. I mean, every one of us has definitely had the experience. You go to most modern buildings, you first enter, your details at the ground floor security, and then you go into the same thing when you go to the office that you're actually visiting. I always wonder what is it that it takes them to actually connect this to, to the office, right? Why are they actually requiring to do this? So when we actually conceived IncrediHub, we looked at the fact that the supply side of money, was very well catered, right? The lenders. But the demand side of money was totally ignored. I mean, I was a lender myself when we actually tied up with the likes of Paisabazaar, etc. as one of the earliest tie-ups. All we got was, okay, the contact coordinates of the, of the potential borrower, and that got passed on to 10 lenders, and we bombarded the guy with calls, everybody saying, I'm the best, so you should actually kind of come to me. Now, this is something which is very suboptimal, right? And hence, we said we are again one of the earliest lending platforms that cater to the originator and aggregator use case, right? We said that, and this was before even the RBI came up with the LSP framework, etc. We said if this is not empowered, you're not going to have a scenario where you have full scale actually digitalization possible. Right? So some of these are examples in terms of what actually kind of drove us to to take this basic obedience. I was talking to actually a head of leading private bank, and he said he spends about 3 hours every day trying to figure out into that visibility. So we built like what we call as an integration dashboard that gives actually the lender at an API level visibility in terms of whether it's been a success or not on this. Right? Debugging is literally in seconds on this. So some of these things were actually, blind spots in terms of how technology was used, technology was conceived, and this needed to actually get realistic. And I could go on and on in terms of various pain points there, but these are some of the top ones that we actually had. From an outlook perspective, there will be two scenarios, right? We will need to find more elegant solutions to what we have today, which are progress from what it was earlier, and you have new problems that we need to contend with. I'll give you a simple example. So I built vehicle finance business in the 1990s. I would makes me look like a relic, but I'll say that anyway. And there was this concept of trade advance to dealers, right? Now this was pre-email, pre-mobile kind of era. And the dealer, we have dealers all across the country who are sourcing business for us. And there is this concept of trade advance in vehicle finance, right? They give trade advance to the dealers. And the dealer would say, okay, I have actually, sold so many, I've given you so much of business, I'm going courier the elements, I need that. So all of that would be, in those days, would take 7 days for the payment to be made. So we thought elegantly in terms of that era of digitalization, we said, why don't you fax us all the invoices? And we will treat this as business given to us, and we will actually disburse the check to you the next day. Now that, I mean, just yesterday I was talking to the offset of a leading private bank. He said, he was dealing with pride. He said, today, trade advance, Rajesh, we are able to literally give the dealer on a WhatsApp. Right? The dealer says that I want X amount, I want to draw so much of my trade advance. He just WhatsApp the message. There is no human intervention, and the money gets credited to the account. So both these problems in their context, in that particular time and era, actually were solved. Right? But this today, what we have is far probably than what we did at that point in time. So this, I don't think we will attain nirvana in this. It's going to be forever.
Thanks, Rajesh, for highlighting that. And I think I'll take it forward and come back to Shekhar. So I think the point that came across Shekhar is that on one side, obviously, as a banker or bank would want solution which technically provide nirvana for the business. And the other side is there are restrictions by regulation, by the existing technology, the data side of, and obviously the regulation is what you find.
तो इसलिए मैं तेरा कॉल
So I have
यही
two
बोलता
parts
तू
to
बता
that. Is for the next phase of this innovation, what do you think or your view would fuel this collaboration between the bank and the tech side? Will it be more fueled because the regulation is changing rapidly towards customer protection as well as privacy, etc.? Or it will be more fueled by, we heard in the last panel, the AI itself is getting running on steroids. So just because of the technology itself will make it so easy to collaborate that so what will fuel this? What is your view? What do you think will be the environment state for this true collaboration between bank and technology?
Right. If you see the trend between the bank and fintech collaboration last couple of years, right? The first phase was obviously they had their own tax products and with the customization. Then it was customization phase for the bank. Then now what we're seeing is that co-design and co-create. Because things are changing very fast. So whatever work earlier may or may not work now on the so we are co-design and creating a lot of things between things. A lot of APIs are available in the Indian market today, but how to use those APIs, how to build meaningful insights on top of those APIs and data sets. We are co-design, co-create a lot of things. I think the next phase will be on the commercialization. Like, it's not just about creating software and how we can build the go to the market, and how we can commercialize what we have. That is going to be the next real phase of collaboration bank and fintech. Okay, because both these will have to scale the game. Just not just that to come here and just walk away. So that could be very important. And the entire commercialization and go-to-market and strategy, obviously the entire regulations will have to be kept in mind. For example, data privacy, digital lending guidelines, the storage of data within India, etc. Anyway, that will be kept in mind. And what fintech can bring to the table is not only AI with disruptor as a bank we are able to do. I'll give an example. For example, company with the other panel spoke about cash flow insights. Now, what customers want is that they work with multiple banks. 65% of customers have relationship with more than one bank. What the panel spoke. Now, what customers looking for is a certificate to take insight from all the guys on how they cash flow insight and very financial. With something we as a bank, we are able to do. That's where the fintech comes into picture. And they talk about the next best action. So yeah, exciting time for the bank and fintech collaboration. They will jointly create something, market it, while ensure that we retain the customer trust and ensure that we are on the right side of it.
I think the interesting point you ended up with, and I think that is the core of the banking, right? While as a bank, you would like to provide the service in the fastest manner and to provide all the value-added services. The core aspect is that the trust on the institution should remain there, right? And I think the next question to Satish and Rajesh is that, as a technology founders, when we're building new solutions, and obviously BFSI is the industry that you're targeting, how do you ensure, or what steps you guys are taking, which ensure that this innovation supports the both the two arrowhead that usually the bank has. One is the trust, that at no point in time uh, bank should encounter a low trust just because they are partnering with a new tech provider or a solution. And the second is how they enable furthering their inclusion angle, right? Getting to new customers. And hence,
I'll take it. You reverse the order. Yeah, I mean, this is what Buddhi Rakhe Haath Raka. When you said inclusion, I mean, it's a subject which is very close to my heart. So while obviously the heart is very fond of the fact that we can say some of the biggest names in BFSI are our clients, but what is actually food for the soul is, can we make a small dent in terms of serving the unserved and the underserved segments on this? Credit inclusion is often on this. I think there is still very limited enablement that goes behind it. Right? I give this example to a lot of people. I'm sure that this will most people that relate with most of it. We all have wives, kids at our homes, so we are earning money at some stage, and those monies are being paid back. Yet when this wife goes through the formal credit system, I don't think that she will get a loan. Now, what is it that gave us comfort that we are okay in terms of giving the loan to her, but the financial institution is not? The fact that we know, okay, we are paying the salary. I know that she works in 5 other houses in this particular complex, so therefore it is 5x the income that she is actually making, right? Hence, in some form, this is actually flow-based finance, right? Now, you don't see that. I mean, we are an MSME ourselves, right? And I always, and the pain for me that I'm a banker as well, right? So when I have the conversation, let's say with our bankers on our working capital limit, the first recourse is saying that, I mean, can we look at your property? And I tell them we are a technology company, we're not a real estate company, right? I mean, I can give you my own, beyond that, I don't have property to give you on this. And there is a question always in my mind saying that, why is it that, the whatever lakhs and crores that are flowing in through my account, not, relevant enough data point, for the lender to lend. I mean, why does the lender needs to seek, security, beyond that, right? It's a question mark. But, in our journey as a startup, and I love the fact that we all us as startup, we always remain a startup on this, because we always then look at things from the lens of possibility, saying that, how do you solve this? Not saying that it can't be done. There, we feel very privileged to have clients who had a forward-looking vision in terms of what they wanted to. Like through Incredi Hub, we enabled one of India's largest NBFCs to introduce very innovative offerings in unsecured. Now, MSME lending is what I call is trapped in a big fat file syndrome, right? Unless you have tons of paper that you can give, I don't think you qualify, for being even spoken to, right? Now, how do you change the paradigm on this, right? To also need clients on the other side who share this vision. I mean, technology by itself cannot do this. It's an enabler, right? Now we have had, I mean, for this client, right, we enabled them to launch very innovative business loan offerings, like business loan based on, average balances in their current account. Right? Business loans based on their GST and filing. Now these were innovative because they also had a very clear, we don't want to launch Me Too products, right? Now these two variants that they launched worked so well for them that they have still not launched their basic vanilla variant, which is the P&L balance sheet standard that we know, right? Another thing that we actually did was, enabled a leading supply chain finance provider to, set up like a fintech vertical. Again, love their vision. They wanted to cater to the long tail of supply chain finance, right? And these are, let's say, your Kirana stores who obviously are not organized in terms of their documentation, property, etc. And but they had the advantage of having access to their trade data by virtue of where they sat in the supply chain finance ecosystem, right? So the ability to leverage that trade data transaction between, let's say, the retailer and the wholesaler, assess what is the working capital need, and be able to tie up with multiple lenders, on the other side, is again another use case which we are very proud of, right? Because it genuinely, tries to ferret, inclusion in that form. I mean, credit inclusion, honestly, to my mind, should be not there in the Vargia, To my mind, credit inclusion is not about the lack of repayment capability. It is a shortcoming on the lending side. It is our lack of ability to assess the repayment capability of somebody who's not being part of the forward system. And hence, for doing this, you need to have, I mean, there is this oft, use line every one of us heard, MSMEs are the backbone of this particular country. If MSMEs have to be the true backbone of this country, and they continue to be that, then technology has to be the backbone of MSME. If that does not happen, this will remain a mere sentence which we can paste in our drawing boards and say this is what we are doing.
Sorry, before we move to Satish, I think on the inclusion part, you delved a lot. The second part was how does you make the institutional, which is and part of NBFC, trust that your technology is working and it is able to scale and provide the solution that we are.
And I'm sorry if I missed that, but I'll just take a minute to say that. So we incidentally did that. We adversity became a opportunity in a sense for us, right? When COVID hit, and we realized that we had to actually work, from home and largely deliver from there. The first thing that came to our minds was saying, "Oh, we are processing sensitive client data, both on the incentive side as well as on the lending side. How are we going to give comfort to our clients who are all regulated entities and some of the biggest names in the industry? Comfort that this is all kosher, right?" So we actually took on our ISO accreditation process parallel to COVID, right? Literally speaking, we started it the next week after COVID, and we said that we need to actually kind of those we got accredited. We ensured obviously that so in terms of information security management, etc. We fact that we are ISO certified gives comfort that we cater to global standards. On that we regularly run kind of certain based code reviews, VAPTs, etc. We share with our clients because our clients are regulated entities. They audit us on an ongoing basis, and we were happy to say that we never really found any kind of high risk comment in their audits, and whatever findings they have on the other side, we work with them to in terms of resolve them within a timeline available to them. So that's how we've been there, and we keep looking at saying how are we going to raise the bar. I mean, we are an advanced tech partner of AWS. We actually work very closely with AWS in terms of they're reviewing our platform architecture, etc., and coming up with this critically. We did this exercise even with CR, where we asked you to go take a look at the platform and tell us saying that okay, these are the things that are not very good. You need to actually kind of come back to that. And they're very useful inputs, for us.
So that's great inputs, Rajesh. See from my side, I think technology is going to disrupt, but finally, if it is not adopted, it's not going to be helpful, right? I was in Dubai recently coming back, and I saw one side there was a self-service checking counter, and the other side there was a manual checking counter. You can imagine where the crowd was. It was all on the manual side. Nobody was going to the self-service checking, right? So technology is there, but if it is not trustable, if people don't believe that their luggage will come on the other side, they will never adopt it, right? So it's very important for the technology to be trustable. For technology to be trustable, first it has to be simple, it has to be transparent, and it has to be predictable, right? I think Abhijit in the earlier panel talked about predictability, personalization, and does. Right. So that's very important. And I think applying that, I've been talking to multiple banks and insurance companies that we will help you do self-service onboarding of customers, KYC and KYC onboarding, right? But then this incident in Dubai kind of pinched me saying that it is not as self-service unless it is reliable, trustworthy, and simple. Right? In fact, any of the transactions that a bank has with a customer today, even if it is a change, for example, there is a document involved, there is a paper involved, there is a lot of pain that happens, there is a lot of friction, right? In fact, most recently, I talked about John having a documents in 2018. A few months back, we wanted to take a OD on the FD. So that's that comes to your trust and inclusion, right? You talk about the buy getting money. We are a well-funded startup, and the bank told it's a bank that I have personally been banking for last 25 years, and with our company we have been banking for last 3.5 years. So the bank said, sir, to take 2 days, right? And we have been talking about TAP and SCP, etc. Guess how many days it took actually? It was a very time critical thing. We had many payouts to be made, and we had to take a OT because we had put a lot of money in their fee, and we didn't want to kind of encash it. So it took 14 days actually, and the customer relationship manager came twice. First time he said, sir, your circular seal should be replaced with the square bill, right? The second time he came, I said, certificate has expired, so you need to issue a new one. Third time he came and said that there is some more question that the MOA has to be looked at, board resolution has to be looked at, and all these things, right? So I have actually personally experienced this way that customers go to with the banks. I keep wondering what is it that is stopping the banks to transform these kind of activities where you remove the friction and the pain between the customer and the bank, right? And I think Virat talked about the technology is going to be crucial, and also the whole service quality will depend on the customer expectation. Today, Flipkart delivers everything in 10 minutes, and if the banks do not change and if the insurance does not change, start offering that kind of a service, I'm sure all these hyperlocals and quick commerce companies will come. In fact, there was a mention made that the customer looks at service quality not purely from their interaction with the bank or an insurance company, they look at what other service they are getting in the market. Right? So the thresholds and the benchmarks are very different to what it used to be in the past. So there is a lot of challenge in multiple uh, transactions. It's not only the back office activities, right? It has become a customer experience matter, has become a matter of improving the customer service. So that's where I see technology can play a big role as long as it is simple, it is sustainable, and it brings predictability and it's transparent. I think that's how we have to look at new technology. And in CopyQuest, what we have done, so it is why everyone's talked about Gen AI. I request all of you to go back and check that GPT, ask a question and ask it to twice and ask it again, are you sure? And see whether you get the same response, right? Over the years, there is a lot of reliability that is coming, but if your business support systems are dependent on a technology where the technology is not sure what it is answering, then I think you should very seriously look at whether that's the right technology to adopt. So if you want to give a trustworthy solution to the customer, you have to trust the technology that you are putting in. So that's where I think it's very important to bring a reliable technology that provides a reliable solution to the customer. That's what we promise the customers, and we try to look them to achieve that.
Thanks, Satish. I think just to quickly summarize, and if there is any question before that, I think for the panelists, we can take maybe one or two questions. Else we can quickly summarize and wrap up the panel.
We have stunned them with our videos.
Yes, I think if I take a third person view, right, I think it's a mix of a lot of excitement, and the excitement comes from a lot of things changing very, very rapidly on the B2C side. However, when you look on the B2B side, I think that what Taker mentioned for both bank and technology to co-design, co-create, because there are a lot of friction points that still exist, and every friction point, in my view, presents presents opportunity in itself. And I think that's why we all are here and excited about this segment altogether. With that, yeah.
If I may, Suvit, I'm sorry, something that you said triggered, this thought, just wanted to take a minute only. So today, I mean, I say this that lending used to be like a single thread scenario earlier, right? You either had a lender who sourced through channels or who sourced directly the borrowers. Now today lending is a composite, right? I mean, you have direct borrower journeys, you've got channel assisted journeys, you've got fintech partnerships, you've got originator partnerships. And if you see how they are catered to today, they're all catered to by independent systems. That itself has to actually kind of change, right? And when we consider income, that's what we try to bring in, saying that how is it that this can actually function as a core lending system, as well as a credit gateway that allows lenders to actually kind of plug on multiple kind of partnerships. So, for it, from a, when you said that from a go forward perspective, how does that, kind of come in exactly struck me?
Before wrapping up, I'll have to give chance to Sekhar to maybe defend the banking side of it. You are now an ex-banker, Rajesh, so you have taken in case you want to add anything.
We should look at the journey of how it has evolved. Okay. Look at when we were kids, right? We had to visit branch and do all kind of things. Okay. See how it evolved. And digitization, technology, AI, collaboration, a lot of progress has been made. So yeah, there's a lot of areas still underway. Okay. Yeah, we will get it.
Just to clarify, I wasn't beating up banks.
That's all for from this panel, and will not keep you guys away from lunch anymore. Thanks a lot, Sekhar, Satish, and Rajesh, for sharing your views and insights on this panel. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sikar, Avisa, for having us.
We're all done with the morning. Listen, it was too tempting to come and give like a few consulting anecdotes. The whole problem is that you've been a consultant for 40 years. So I'm not going to rehash and summarize all days for some of the day session because I can see everybody is very attentive. But just to the last panel and like a couple of, so going back to the Dubai story that I think you mentioned. Last time when I landed from Dubai, I really desperately wanted to use India data sometime, but I have to tell you, either the passport or the scan, right? Last night was fascinating. So I prayed when I landed that the passport would scan. The passport scanned, but they had forgotten to load the passenger manifest still. So it still didn't work, right? I mean, and it just goes back to the point of whether it's a digital handover or whether it's a manual handover, what are we going to have? And you can't restrict the handover no matter whether it's digital or manual. It's not going to move. Okay. And so that's one one thing that came to mind. Going back to the account opening, I mean, if it's any reassurance to you, very dear friend of mine who's on the board, who was on the board of the bank, they don't want to use the benefit of the fact that he was on the bank board. It took him 8 weeks to open his in the same bank. So these are like beyond the point technology. You not be able to fix it. It's cultural issue, it's attitude issue, it's people, technology, integration issue. And just for Rajesh and benefit many years ago, I was doing something for a very large bank in our friendly quote unquote neighbor country. And so I was, believe it or not, in there to restructure the bank. I would go there, Ram used to go, used to be there every month. Yeah. And so I saw the org structure, and there was no head of vehicle finance. And I kept asking for the first day and the second day and the third day, why isn't anybody in the role, right? And sheepishly on the second or third day, especially because I was Indian, they said, okay, here's 1, 2 candidates. Guys, what's going on? Why would you not want to be? He said, sir, वो बाकी के जो सारे 3 पहले थे सारे kidnap हो गए. So I said, really? And I said, what do you mean? And I said, I was looking at the vehicle inventory or whatever they're in finance, and it was like 30% of vehicles missing. And he said that they were all being driven across to the Afghani border. So, if you want any sympathy on vehicle finance, you won't get it from me. But anyway, listen, thank you all for being here for the first half today. And please enjoy it. Thank you. Everyone. There's one QR code on the screen. If you guys can scan and give us a little feedback. And also on your table, we'll have physical feedback for you guys. Can you spare 30 seconds?